Hi everyone. So I'm writing an article for my website about how to live brilliantly day by day. So much of recovery is about looking back into the past and dealing with unresolved traumas and histories, and going right back to day one into childhood. But also, I'm aware there's a lot of people really struggle on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes the very first thing to do is to try and get yourself on track that way. Now, in my 19 years of recovery now, I've learned some brilliant methods, and I'm going to pass them on and put them in the article that will appear as a blog article on my website, which is david-hurst.com. I think you'll find it below, listed there. So what I love about these is there's a phrase in the 12-step recovery groups that is, it works if you work it. Okay, now these work, they cannot not work. That's what I love about them. There's certain laws in being a human, in having the human condition, as we all do. There's physical laws. So for example, if I eat well, healthily, lots of fruit and veg, and not too much, and I go to the gym a few times a week, maybe go running a couple of times a week as well, I'm going to get physically fitter, and it will show. After probably a week even, I'm going to feel better. After a couple of weeks, it might become apparent. After a couple of months, people are going to start to say, well, you're looking fitter. So, it's a law. It cannot not work. In the same way, there are emotional and spiritual laws. So, for example, the first thing I do every day, I wake up, I open my eyes, and I'm full of gratitude. I will say, thanks that I can open my eyes and see, thanks that I can move my legs and walk to get out of the bed, and then just do a gratitude list. In the early days of my recovery, for the first few years, in fact, and I still do them now and then, although I do them as part of my meditation a lot now, I used to write a gratitude list, and that was I'd write 10 things that I was grateful for. I actually used to write that at bedtime, and I used to start each sentence on pen and paper, and on paper with a pen, and I used to start each sentence with I am grateful for. So write that out, no dittos, just write it out. It's all emphasizing positivity and starting to practice your brains go down the positive pathways in there rather than the negative ones, and getting them well worn and the ones that get used most often and automatically. So I am grateful. Think of 10 things. They can be big things or little things, or seemingly little things that we take for granted but that we would miss if we didn't have them. A couple of examples, for example, you can put, I'm grateful for hot and cold running water. I'm grateful that I've got a pair of shoes without a hole in. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for my good health. I'm grateful for my 5 senses, and list them, and be aware of them as well. I'm grateful for the lovely view I have. Things like that, I'm grateful for food in my fridge, and things like that. Yes, carry on with those. And that's a great way to start the day. And I just think, you start off in a positive way. You can also write a gratitude list any time in the day. And, particularly if you're starting to feel down, write a gratitude list. The thing here is gratitude and depression, anxiety, stress cannot coexist. Okay, I once said that to a friend of mine who's a very, very smart guy, published author. And 5 days later, he got back in touch with me and he said, I've been thinking about that for 5 days and I cannot prove you wrong. It's not my theory. It's something that was passed on to me that I'm passing on here now. But if you're grateful, you cannot be depressed or anxious at the same time. It won't work. So, if you find yourself feeling a bit depressed or anxious or stressed, do a gratitude list, write one down. If you can't write one down at the time, do one in your head. Just look around and be grateful. I think we're given a gift in life, and it's good not to forget that and to remember all the things we are grateful for. It's kind of like getting back to it in a way that the childhood wonder as well. I'll give you an example. I remember waking up once years ago when my eldest son was probably about 4 years old, and I looked out at the Devon weather and went, it's raining again. He woke up, looked out, and he went, way, puddles to splash in, So you can find the positive in many things. And of course, the way he started his day, he was going to have a better day than the way I was starting my day, so I adjusted. and we had a good day, and we splashed in puddles together. So another thing, especially first thing, I think, is avoid negativity. So that would be for me, don't go onto your phone looking at Facebook, although there might be positive things with your friends there. You might come across someone having a rant about something. It sets off thoughts that create feelings. The feelings create more thoughts. You get into a vicious cycle. Social media such as Twitter, we can start off looking at strangers' viewpoints and politicians' viewpoints, and quickly start the day in anger, really, or frustration or despair. Newspapers as well, or putting the TV on, the news, it's often full of worst case scenarios. So try not to, really, and I'd say limit it in general. The nature of the news is to focus on the negative and the world's worst. Well, the world, as I see it, well, there's two ways to look at the world, as Dr. Wayne Dyer said. You can live in a hostile world with hostility, or a beautiful world with beauty, or words to that effect, he said, and it's the same world. It's just how we look at things, all depends on how we look at things. So now I know a lot of people say to me, but I like to know what's going on. Fair enough, you can have a look at what's going on, but I think balance it out, so look at the positive, all the brilliant positive things and the abundance and love around, and then go, okay, maybe there's that happening that's not so good. Bear in mind that a lot of the things in the news are things that might happen. Most of them won't. So you don't have to worry about them, really, I don't think, too much. And I think, balance out with the good. I'll give you an example of this. When we went travelling in our motorhome with my two young children, we had some money stolen off us once from a guy we trusted who had been befriending us for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, including holding one of our child's hands as we walked along. Seemed like a lovely guy. We gave him some money, said, I'll go off and get you change. It was for a ferry ticket. We never saw him again. And I remember saying to my children, look, we've travelled lots so far, but at that time I think we'd been to about 12 countries in Europe. And I said, how many good people, beautiful, brilliant people, positive people have we met, and they kind of were trying to add it up. And, we worked out it was probably all in all, several hundred really on the campsites and people we'd visited. And then I said, okay, and we met one guy there who's not been so good, who's been dishonest. He's got to live with himself. He's got to look at himself in the mirror. But that's about the balance, I think. I mean, most people are brilliant and positive, so balance it out, Okay, so another thing I think is very, very important, start each day with meditation. I start with 30 minutes. I now usually put my gratitude into that. I do still write lists, but I will also think them. 30 minutes is a good time. It's a great way to start. Don't bombard yourself with this negative stuff. Start the day calmly and peacefully. What you find, even if you have to get up half an hour earlier to do this, as I do often because I've got two young children, you will actually have more energy in the day. It's I think negativity steals your energy. Positivity and starting the day in calmness and stillness. I look at it as going back to the centre of it all, where it all started, and just sort of gives you more energy, and I think it's a lovely way to start the day. So there's that. So, if you can't do 30 minutes, try 5 minutes. And a lot of people say, I find my thoughts just coming in. Well, if you do and you realise that, just observe them. I think I do that and I go, that's what David's thinking about right now. I wonder why David's thinking about that. Might sound a bit balmy, but, it's observing really. And, I listen to my breath and heartbeat, listen to the breeze and feel the sun on my face if it's sunny. Things like that. Just be aware. Again, maybe it's a bit like being a child. The children are so aware of all the noises around them, and how they've things they can feel on them, and all the small details. That often when we grow up and we become all head and drive, I must do this, I must do that, I must get there. We forget the moment, and it's a lovely, calm way to start the day, be in the now. And along with that, I think it's very, very important to live one day at a time. And the more I've gone on in recovery, the more I've realized humans are made this way. So, for example, I could go out and eat with someone right now and eat so much that we're both absolutely stuffed that we couldn't even face a little, even if someone offered us the tastiest chocolate, we just couldn't fit it in. However, the next day we're going to be hungry again. Same with sleep. I could sleep for 10 hours tonight, but I'm still going to want to sleep the next night, you know. We're designed to live 24 hours a day. I think I heard the biblical story, the Exodus, a million times. It was never really explained to me. It was just told. But actually, it's about that, really, the manna from heaven. You know, it's there every morning. You have to have faith that you're going to be looked after, that the world's a good world, as I was saying, an abundant world full of love. And, you know, that story showed that those who got fear in them and picked more than they needed for a day, actually, it went rotten and smelt the next morning. So they had to live day by day and develop faith and trust eventually. So that's one thing that story is about, you know. Okay, so living one day at a time. Yep, very, very important. You know, yes, have some preparation maybe for the future, a little bit, but bear in mind that, you know, a lot of plans don't go to plan. You know, there's that little ditty, how do you make God laugh? Tell him your plans. Well, so preparations, but I think don't swear on them. You know, have some sort of program in your head, really, a plan, rough one, but be flexible and just try and keep it in the day, you know. And what I try and do is I wake up, I do the best I can for that day, and I don't worry about tomorrow. And then when tomorrow comes, I do the same. I wake up, do the best I can for that day. You know, I have a rough plan of where I'm going, but I don't ruin the moment by being in the future all the time, worrying about the future. Also, of course, don't regret the past, you know. Nothing you can do about the past, and you know, I think you can look at it sometimes, reflect on it, and learn from it, and vow not to do something again. Or, you know, at the end of the day, I often ponder through my day and think, you know, if there's something that's a little bit uncomfortable or causing some sort of emotional disturbance, and you know, I think, how could I do that better next time or differently? So, okay, another thing, we can make a decision to be happy. Now, this can be a bit glib. I understand if you're really depressed. You're really feeling down. But in general, we do have a choice, you know, and we can decide, I'm going to be happy. You know, I know it can divide people and that, but it's good to know that we do have a choice over our thoughts, and we do have a choice over how we feel, really. You know, we can focus on the bad, or we can focus on the good. We can focus on positivity or focus on negativity. We are given free will, which is fantastic. And, you know, I think we're given free will because we have the gift of life, you know. And as with any gift, it's better it's got free will with it. Otherwise, it can become a burden, as if I gave somebody a bike but said you can only ride on Mondays between 3 and 4 and you must only turn left. Then it becomes a burden to them, you know. It's a gift. I give it to them. It's up to you what you do with it, you know. So that's that. Yes, you know. There's then next, treat yourself like someone you really love. You know, I mean, you know, there's that cliche, isn't it? You know, I can give loving advice to someone else, but I don't listen to it myself. Well, you know, try to do that. You know. If your self-esteem's low, you might want to boost that by doing esteemable things. And that could just be like putting a bit of money in a charity pot or paying to an online charity. And I think the key there is not to tell anyone, you know, you just do it, keep it inside yourself. You know, phone an elderly relative and just ask them how they are, you know, and you'll put the phone down, they'll be grateful for your call and you'll feel better inside. So, yeah, you know, and I think it's, you know, treat yourself, as someone you love. Try and be aware of your body posture. You know, studies have shown that people walking tall, head up, it's like makes them feel more positive. You know, it's a natural. You could even try, you know, putting your hands in the air like that. It's a natural sort of human thing we do when we're celebrating or happy, you know. And if you're not feeling good, just try it and see, you know. So then there's another one. I mean, it seems an obvious one to me, but a lot of people neglect it, and perhaps a lot of people haven't been shown how to do it. But exercise and eat healthily. You know, eat regularly if you can, eat healthily, lots of fruit and veg, of course. I believe the 5 a day, as we're told in Britain, is actually the minimum. I think it should be more than 5 a day, but the experts got together and decided that people would, if they said, you know, eat 9 a day, which is closer to what it should be, I think people would just give up on it. So they decide on 5 a day. That's what I heard anyway. But, you know, lots of fresh fruit and veg, as fresh as you can. And then exercise as well. You know, the guidelines are at least 5 times a week for 30 minutes a time. I mean, bear in mind, of course, people can get addicted to exercise. So if you're going 3 times a day, you might be damaging yourself. But, you know, certainly it releases feel-good chemicals. And, you know, this is mostly an inside job, recovery. But, of course, if you're feeling okay, and I don't mean that you think you're God's gift, but you're feeling good about yourself, you know, it will help, you know, in the same way. You know, if you've got t-shirts with holes in, go and buy yourself a new t-shirt, you know, unless that's your fashion, having t-shirts with holes in, you know. You know, just carry yourself well, really, and yeah, do some exercise, you know. And it's just, I think one thing with exercise, I mean, I do a lot of swimming, I love it, but I still get that kind of sabotaging voice in my head saying, "Oh, don't bother going," you know. And what I say to it now very quickly is, "Oh, you know, shut up," basically. And I ask myself, have I ever felt worse after I've gone swimming? And I never have, so I go swimming. And yeah, you know, get in the habit of looking after yourself and loving yourself and taking care of yourself. So, okay, another one. Be around people who want the best for you. Okay, now, you know, your friends should be rooting for you and should be respecting you and showing you love, you know, and be around those sort of people. If at work you're with someone, a boss, for example, who criticise you a lot, well, personally, I'd be looking for a new job, thinking I'm in the wrong job here, you know. I'm okay to have a word with them now and say, you know, I don't like this, or I don't that. And if it didn't change, I'd be looking for a new job. I'd be thinking I'm in the wrong job. Families, a bit more tricky. I think you can detach with love. You know, as one's put to me that you don't have to invite pain into your life. You know, but they're families, so there's this weird blood bond, and you know, even if there's mostly negativity, there's often good memories mingled in there as well. But I think you can detach with love. So that means you be kind, you be respectful, you be loving, but maybe you don't put yourself on the front line so much, you know. And yeah, just balance it out, really. So another one, next one, stop comparing yourself to others. Well, I think it's, you know, maybe look at what progress you're making and don't worry about other people, really, you know. Keep in mind that life's, you know, a marathon, not a sprint, as the cliche goes. Yeah, you know, in my recovery now, I've seen some people who seem to do really, really well. But over the couple of decades now, generally my life has been, thankfully, and I say this humbly, has kind of been pretty steadily good to excellent most of the time, really. And I've seen some people who look like they're flying high there, but it's not maintained, you know, if they're not doing this sort of stuff, working on themselves, growing. You know, I've seen it often where people have shot up really high and you think, wow, look at that, but then something comes along, you know. I think the brilliant thing with doing like these daily things is generally day to day you'll have a good day, and that builds, you know. And I mean, I see people in early recovery and they'll say to me, you know, I've had a good day, and then you hear them a couple of weeks later saying, oh, I've had a good week generally, you know. And then it kind of keeps going, and then they go, well, yeah, it's all you know, it's good. Often I meet people as well, and they'll say to me in early days, they'll say, I've had a crap week, and I break it up and I say, let's talk about that. And actually, when you break it up, you find that it's maybe actually they've had a crap few hours, which already lessens the power of it and the blow of it. And, you know, but again, it's this sort of focusing on negative, really, and it's breaking the habit of that, you know. So a few hours over a week are terrible, and that's what the mind focuses on. And then the mind tells you it was a crap week. Actually, when you break it down, you see it was a crap few hours on a couple of days, you know. So find acceptance is the next one, okay? As it's worded on the Just for Today card that's popular in 12-step recovery groups, just for today I'll adjust myself to what is and not try to adjust everything to my own desires. I will take my luck as it comes and fit myself to it. So, you know, accept situations and people for who they are, accept yourself, you know, and focus on your qualities. That's not to say you roll over if, you know, something bad happens, someone speaks to you badly, but it's to try and be a lot more accepting. I think on this one as well, it's a thing like to remember that we don't know the bigger picture. So, for example, the guy cutting you up in the car, now, 9 times out of 10, they might just be irresponsible boy racer who's putting everyone at danger on the roads. But they might actually be rushing to hospital after they've received a phone call that their mother's unwell or something. We don't always know the big picture. In fact, we usually don't. So it's worth bearing in mind. Like I say, it's not to let everyone off the hook, but it's to find a bit more acceptance. And the key there is then you're looking after yourself, really, you know. I mean, if I'm resentful at a guy who's cut me up and I chase him for 100 miles, I'm wasting my time. And, you know, supposing I didn't chase him, but I just keep that resentment, it's me who's hurting. You know, it's like that thing of I'm drinking the poison, waiting for him to die, you know. It's me that it's hurting. So that's what forgiveness is about as well. You know, if something is done to you that's harmful, that's a very difficult one in the beginning in recovery, you know, I think it can come about as you get to understand yourself more, and also to understand that everyone's got their own story, and to also know that you forgive, because it's the clues in the word. I always say to people, you're giving to yourself, you know, otherwise you're carrying that blockage around, that resentment, those resentments that are piling up on you. You know, it might be a lot of little resentments, but they're like little pebbles, and finally one will come along and it will make it seem like a boulder that you can't carry anymore. You know, of course, there's big resentments as well. You know, it's not an overnight thing. None of this is, but it's something to bear in mind. You know, another one. Okay, be agreeable. So that's Just for Today. It's from the Just for Today card again. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up online. You know, I'm sure just type in Just for Today card and you'll see it's a list of brilliant ways to live, really. Again, you know, if you live all of those, which I try to now, and I specifically did in the first few years of my recovery. I think they've just become part of my life now. But again, you cannot not benefit, and also the world around you will benefit as well, you know. So this one says, just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticise not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. Okay. Next one, be humble. So I think even if you make great achievements, be humble about them. You know, so let yourself celebrate, of course, be happy, but I think don't brag or rub someone's nose in it. I don't think that ever really works. You know, I play football now and then, and a little bit of banter maybe is fun, but you know, I think it can go over the top, and it's much better to be humble, I think. You know, how I see it is I'm always helped with any of my achievements by people through, you know, I believe in a greater force, a higher power now, that's what's given me grace to do things that are good achievements, you know. So, you know, I think, yeah, it's just be humble, keep your feet on the ground. So, okay, well, this is a big one, I think. Say sorry as soon as you can. So remember, this is a day-to-day thing, but of course the days add up. So, if I speak out of turn, I try to say sorry for it. You know, if I make a mistake, I try to say sorry as soon as I can. I was also think it's useful to remember sometimes saying I'm sorry is just another way of saying please let me off until the next time I cock up. And that's if you're not living your life in a selfless way. I think if you're thinking of yourself and living selfishly, I'm sorry can be a thing of like, you know, I'm going to carry on and I know there'll be something else because I only think about myself, and I'm hoping this will be get me off the hook for now until the next time. So a good way to phrase things, I think, is I do this if it's something quite big I'm apologising for. I'll say, I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me, or I hope you can forgive me. But yeah, I mean, a very key thing is as soon as you can do it, don't let it sit around. Just go up there. It's being humble again, I guess, isn't it? I made a mistake. I heard yesterday actually that humans 15% of the time make mistakes. I don't know where they've got that from. I don't know if it's true. I've not checked it out, but for sure, we make mistakes. We are human. It's what I teach our kids now. So, particularly my youngest gets upset if he spills something. I just say, look, you're a human. We're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Doesn't matter. And of course, a lot of mistakes we can learn and grow from. It's like learning to walk, isn't it? You could say falling over is a mistake. But it helps us to learn how not to fall over. We don't want to fall over because it hurts, So, again, as parents, you have to let that happen. It's a way to learn and that. So, okay, next, be honest to yourself and others. Well, look, it's just be honest. I think often you have to say, what's my true motive here? And that's often because a bad motive gets dressed up as a good motive. And I think also remember that our gut instinct never lies to us. Our mind can, it can convince you of things, but what you feel in the gut never lies. The amount of times I'm sure as I have heard someone say, I should have gone along with my gut instinct, and there they are then 10 years of a unhealthy relationship later, but their gut instinct always from the beginning was not this person, So, and I think it's much better if we tell the truth and learn to be truthful to ourselves as well, So, okay, right, here's a massive one. Tell someone your secrets. Well, not just anyone, don't just show up on the tube and tell someone, I did this, or that happened. Someone you trust, which is, could be a doctor. If you go to church, could be your vicar. In recovery, you find a sponsor. It could be someone like me who's doing coaching now. But there's the phrase, secrets make us sick, or you're only as sick as your secrets. Well, keeping a secret does all sorts of things. I don't just mean where someone said, oh, by the way, I'm not 21, I'm actually 41, I mean the sort of things that we often think we're going to take to our grave. I mean, they are massively, can be damaging. What goes on is you kind of get the Supreme Court going on in your head saying you're guilty. Even if you're not guilty, sometimes your mind will tell you you're guilty for having let something happen. And you condemn yourself, and a lot of people feel isolated in life, especially before they get into recovery. And I always say it's, if you think of one of the most extreme forms of punishment in our society, it's solitary confinement, and really it's what you can do to yourself. You end up isolating because you kind of feel full of shame, maybe guilt and remorse, and in your head you're saying no one would want to be around me. Letting go of secrets by telling someone else who you trust, I will emphasize again, and be aware who you're telling there. If it's a secret about that person, maybe they don't want to hear it. They're not the right person to say that to. But it is extremely liberating. In the 12 steps, it's step 4 and 5 really, where you write down your secrets and resentments, and then you let them out to your sponsor, usually. And my experience of doing that was I actually finished my step 5 in Brixton, and I remember just walking, feeling, 30 foot tall really. It was such a weight off my shoulders. What I discovered as well, that some of the things I was going to go to the grave with were normal human behaviours, certainly for someone who was trying to fill themselves up, who felt empty and had a lack of sense of self. And the person I told them to carried on talking to me, didn't shun me, didn't call the police, and actually swapped a few stories that were very similar to things I'd done. Now I've listened to lots of people go through the step 4 and 5, and I can tell you, we all do very similar things, different places, different names, different times, but we all do very similar things. Humans do very similar things, especially when we're not feeling well and we're desperate. We're feeling alone, we're feeling unwell, we're feeling anxious, we're feeling depressed, we've got an emptiness inside. We do all sorts of things to try and fill ourselves up, and most of those are very, very similar. So, okay, the next I have there is be kind. So, we all know it really. I always say to people, as soon as you give, you gain. As soon as you're kind, you're going to gain, and it's priceless what you gain. It has no value in that it's priceless. It's a wonderful feeling inside. So yeah, be kind. Always try and be kind. You can even get t-shirts and hoodies with that on now. So get one of them, look down and remind yourself. Be decisive is the next one. Now, many people struggle to make a decision, so then they suffer from the pain and torment of indecision. A lot of this can be do, I think, with childhood. If you're were never asked for your opinion on, I don't know, something happened, or where to go for the day, what day trip to make, or what to eat, I think it can lead to being indecisive as an adult. Also, if you did give your voice growing up and it was ignored, or it was criticized, or it was laughed at or ridiculed, I think that can create indecision as an adult. The other side of that is making rash decisions. So we need to get a balance there, because rash decisions, I think, I'm all for being spontaneous, but I think sometimes we have to consider carefully. I often try and sleep on things if I've got a decision to make, even if I'm pretty certain what it is. I think if I don't have to give the answer now or make that decision, I'll sleep on it and see how I feel in the morning. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Making decisions, I think, it's a lot to do with self-esteem and self-confidence. And sometimes I think, the outcome isn't so important. It's actually making the decision and going for it. So next on the list, make time to relax. Well, I think it's great to start a day with 30 minutes of meditation and prayer, if you're okay with prayer. I mean, I do. I go down on my knees and I pray, talk to the universe, higher power, whatever. And prayer means to ask earnestly. So, doesn't mean, I don't go to church. There's a difference between organised religion and spirituality. But I do ask earnestly often. If I've got a worry or something, I'll just put it out there. And I can do that during the day as well, and I think to relax as well. So it's not necessarily meditation again, but make sure you sit down and chill out really. Don't rush around all day. It's just healthy to sit down, maybe in the middle of the afternoon. I love the Spanish way of having a siesta. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, make sure, just make sure you get half an hour where you're not running around and where you can relax your mind and your body and your spirit. So, okay, cut down or quit. It's pretty obvious, I think, really. If you suspect you're drinking too much or taking any other drugs, smoking obviously is not good for you. Okay, ask yourself, and this comes back to that, being honest to yourself, is it really good for you? Is it doing me any good? Okay, and if you can honestly answer no, then you need to quit, or at least cut down in the beginning. Now, this can be very difficult, because for many reasons people are drinking too much. I'm not talking about social drinking, this is excessive drinking, addiction, or taking one drug or the other, or smoking. It's usually about trying to push something down, depress something, and so that's why talking therapy or the 12 steps help. They will help you recognize what it is. It can be painful and frightening to think, I've got to look at that, but The other is, you can think of it, if you're drinking excessively or taking drugs excessively, it's suicide by installments, you know. So my experience, personal experience, and through helping lots of people, is it's not as, it takes a lot of courage, but it's not as terrible as you might be telling yourself, or as you think it will be. It does take courage. It takes a self-belief, you know. That's why a therapist, good therapist who knows what they're talking about, or a sponsor comes in. It's someone who's been there before you, who can guide you and will tell you they know you can do it too, you know. So yeah, get that support if you need, which is another, actually the last on the list. Reach out for help, you know. I understand it takes great courage, as I did, you know, in start 2002. I had to say, help, I don't know how I'm doing this, you know. It was pointed out to me in my early days of recovery, my very best thinking had got me in the messes I was in. And so I had to ask for help, and I reached out and luckily found other people who had been in a very similar dark, cold hole as I was, and I listened to them. You know, I had to find some humility and listen to them. And you know, all I can say really is, if you're struggling, suffering, find the courage to ask for help. It's the best thing I ever did. And you know, if you ask anyone who's got on in recovery, they will say the same. You know, I always say to people who ask me for help now, a great incentive is, yes, sort yourself out, put your own house in order. You know, you don't need to live life full of anxiety or depression or as an addict, you know. We really don't. I don't think anyone was put on the earth to be like that, and to suffer and struggle like that. So that would seem pointless to me, you know, to have the gift of life. So it's great for yourself, but I also say, you know, a great incentive, get yourself in the position so that you can help other people, really. You know, I think I agree with Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, the Jewish psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. And he said, you know, if you get meaning, find meaning, you'll find happiness, you know. And one great meaning for many people who have struggled is that they're in a position, a unique and privileged position, to help other people who are struggling, you know. And that can be a great incentive for anyone. And I always say it to people who ask me for help in the beginning, you know, make that an incentive. You know, maybe your meaning is that you bump into someone, or you can reach out to people who need help, or people reach out to you and you're in a position to help them. So anyway, I hope that helps. You know, have a look on my website and stuff like that. I'll be making more videos, and I just really hope they help. And thanks everyone for listening.